Today, we will cover the show Ben 10 Alien Force from beginning to end. Ben 10 Alien Force is the captivating sequel to the beloved animated series Ben 10 Classic. This time around, we witness the characters in a more mature light. Ben Tennyson, now 15, along with his 16-year-old cousin Gwen and former sidekick Kevin Levin, embark on a thrilling adventure. The story takes place 5 years after the original series, featuring a serialized narrative with an alien conspiracy and the search for Ben's missing grandfather. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. Ben is leading an everyday college life away from fighting aliens and has left his days as Ben 10 behind. One day after college, he walks into the van looking for his grandpa Max, where he finds a hologram with a message. The message says that Max is in a situation and has the Omnitrix, but oddly enough, Ben still has the watch concealed at his place. He shows the message to his cousin Gwen, who by the way is practicing martial arts now, and they encounter Magister Labrid, who claims that Max went missing during a mission, and Ben puts his watch back on to rescue his grandpa. The trio crashes into an illegal trade of bioweapons where we see Kevin handling the business. Ben notices that his watch now has a completely new set of aliens and turns into Swampfire for the first time. After getting restrained, Kevin initially refuses to give out any info about the bioweapons, but has a change of heart after Gwen asks him to help. Kevin leads them to the Forever Knights hideout where they face off against a dragon and some knights. They manage to defeat them, but Magister Labrid gets heavily injured, and before passing away, he asks Ben to locate the source of these weapons. After he dies, Kevin officially joins their team, and Gwen uses her powers to trace the weapons to their source. They locate a mine shaft, and Kevin knocks down the guard on duty, who happens to be a DN alien wearing a photonic display mask. Inside, they discover a huge tower, and Ben uses the mask to disguise himself in order to sneak inside the tower. They destroy the weapon room, but are now surrounded by DN aliens, so Ben turns into Humongosaur and throws them around like kickball. Afterward, they encounter the Hybrid Commander, who is much stronger than your ordinary DN aliens. The Hybrid threatens to destroy a 5-mile radius to erase all witnesses, but Ben manages to stop him and crash his airship. Somewhere else, the Hybrid Supreme is informed about the destruction of their flyship and their encounter with Ben 10. Sometime later, Kevin fixes Max's van and runs off with it to sell it for money. Kevin visits his old nemesis Volcanus, seeking a hologram which he intended to buy after selling the van, but he gets trapped until Ben and Gwen arrive to the rescue. There, they learn that Kevin never intended to betray them and only wanted to help them find Max. The hologram contains yet another message from Max, telling Ben to form a team of people with superpowers, and hence, the recruiting of heroes begins. Sometime later, Kevin's plumber's badge, which he took from the Magister Labrid, pinpoints the location of a nearby badge. The trio heads to the location, where they find a guy named Alan transformed into Heat Blast from the classic show. Ben fights Alan, and after both of them escape from the police, who have been after Alan for a while, he reveals that he's part alien and part human. His father is also a plumber, which would explain the badge he was holding. Kevin tells Gwen how part humans always have some kind of superpower, hinting that Gwen herself is part human. Later, they come across a giant alien-made weather tower and learn that the DN aliens have built these all over the city to make it habitable. They take the tower down and free Alan of all charges, who decides to stay behind and help the local police in catching more aliens. Later, they come across a guy named Michael Morningstar, who also has a plumber's badge. Just exactly what Ben is looking for. Kevin is jealous because Gwen has grown a liking to Morningstar, but they quickly learn that he's not the hero he acts to be. He has been absorbing the life force of girls to become stronger and then controls them as his puppets. Gwen breaks free from his hypnosis and manages to put an end to his madness. Michael returns as Darkstar and tries to absorb the powers of Ben, Kevin, Hybrid, and a plumber. Now, his plan doesn't go very far as the squad defeats him again, and he gets arrested by the same plumber. Kevin and Gwen also receive their official plumber badges and are left responsible for the safety of the planet. Ben asks his crush Julie out on a date, which is ruined by a baby version of the alien upgrade from Ben 10 Classic. The little alien abducts Julie, but she manages to control it. Oh, and she also learns the truth about Ben, which she finds is very amusing. The little alien was only trying to lead them to Basil, who was trapped in an explosion chamber. Ben saves the day once again, and Basil leaves the little one behind, whom Julie names Ship and keeps as a pet. Ship is often used as a means of transportation by the gang throughout the series. Professor Paradox is a time traveler who was sucked into a time machine that he himself created 50 years ago from the current time, which grants him powers to walk through space and time. After meeting him in his lab, the gang fights an age-accelerating alien who turns Kevin into a grumpy old man. But the professor does turn him young again, so no worries. He then explains how a miscalculation from his end sent the alien to Ben's timeline and then shows them how the Earth would look if the alien was left unattended. He cannot simply go back in time and stop the accident from ever happening because, well, that would take away his powers. He even foreshadows the future of Ben with,
"Never mind. It should be here any..."
They travel back in time and learn that the alien is just one of the assistants who got sucked into the machine along with Paradox and turned into whatever that thing was. Ben lets the accident happen, but saves the assistant, hence saving the Earth from that grim future. Sometime later, Kevin tries an experiment on a teleporter, causing it to malfunction, leading the group to a tech nerd, Cooper. Unfortunately, Cooper was attacked by DN aliens and got abducted, so now the trio has to rescue him. His trail leads them to the same place they met Professor Paradox, which is now transformed into a concealed DN alien day camp. Long story short, Cooper is an extremely intelligent mechanic, has telekinesis powers, and is being forced to build alien tech by the DN aliens. The group breaks into the camp and rescues the kid, but is surrounded by a horde of DN aliens. After demolishing the concealment device, they escape the camp, but their business there is not over yet. Now we learn more about Max's whereabouts. One day, they drive to a town called Santa Mira to look for Gwen's brother Ken, who went missing. They trace his steps to a hatchery, where we see Max for the very first time. He sneaks inside and arrives at Ken's torture chamber, but he's just a little too late, as Ken has already been converted into the DN alien. Meanwhile, the trio enters the hatchery and Ben learns that he has to use the watch to revert Ken. They reunite with Max, who reveals the hybrid is making mass shipments to turn humans into alien army, and it is too late for the gang to stop them. Heroically, Max decides to suicide bomb the place in order to erase all the cargo and save humanity, which works for the time being. A few days pass since his death, and the trio visits Max's secret fishing spot in his memory. They spot a cloaked woman placing a rose under a tree, who vanishes when they chase her. They discover a Max plus Verdona engraving on the tree, and Ben says this.
Max plus Verdona? Who's Verdona?
Verdona is an energy being with powers similar to those of Gwen. Somewhere along the line, she and Max grew apart due to their different responsibilities, but the news of his death spread so far in the universe that she came back to mourn the loss. She asks Gwen to come to her planet where she can break the limits of her powers, but after she refuses to go, Verdona goes berserk and tries to force her. However, she backs down and leaves when Gwen explains how much she enjoys her human life. One day, Gwen receives a hologram message from Helen asking for help, and Ben decides to go to Null Void to sort the matters out. Ben learns that the Null Guardians have gone berserk because of a villain named Devoid, who is manipulating them to dig a hole through a dimension. Devoid is Dr. Animo from the Ben 10 Classic show, and Manny and Helen are working for a group they called the Helpers, who work as a resistance to Animo's dictatorship. They take Ben to meet their leader, the Wrench, who happens to be none other than Grandpa Max. Just when you thought this old man was dead, Max reveals that the grenade didn't kill him, but instead sent him here. Max gathers all the Helpers and launches an attack at the dig site, and after they defeat the Doctor, Gwen opens the portal to Earth and Ben steps into it. Max stays behind because he has to finish what he started in the Null Void, but at least they know he's not dead. A few days later, a man named Tyler is being chased by DN aliens when the gang rescues him and he mentions something about an oscillator key. He takes them to where it's located, and after fighting some aliens, Ben figures that Tyler himself is one of the DN aliens who kept his memories even after turning. Turns out, all the DN aliens are ex-humans, and Ben can save a number of lives if he can find a way to turn them back. The DN aliens arrive to reclaim the oscillator key, which they successfully do, and afterward, Ben uses his watch to turn Tyler back to his normal form, similar to what he did with Ken.
What are you doing?
I'll let you know as soon as I figure it out.
But their mission isn't over, as they still have to stop the Highbreed's invasion. But at least they know how to fix the DN aliens. While fighting a Highbreed, Ben and he end up on the desert planet named Turawusta, which acts as a routing station for the teleporter they were fighting over. The two work together to fend off all the dangers in the area until night falls, and they start getting along, if only a little. Highbreed introduces himself as Rain Rassig III, and as he keeps watch for the night, they get attacked by an alien which amputates its arm. Ben uses swamp fire to reattach the arm, but he isn't so delighted about it. You see, his species believes that Highbreed is the one true species, and all others are abominations. Hence, their ultimate goal is to erase all of them from the universe. Even when they find the teleporter